Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Beebe.
This is Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Bibi, and here we are today with Joanne Brooks. Joanne Brooks is a seasoned entrepreneur, a strategic advisor, and a founder of Navigate T8 is 8biz, sorry. So Navigate Biz. Now, with over 30 years in business, including launching 17 companies, which I applaud you for, Joanne, and scaling one to 30 millions, uh, Joanne empowers women to lead with clarity, courage, and strategy. Through her signature program, Her Transformation, she helps female founders escape the chaos and build a business that aligns with their vision and values. Known as the Circle Builder, Joanne brings out soul to strategy, blending deep business acumen with heart led mentoring. She is also a speaker, a MBA graduate, and a passionate advocate for women rewriting the rules of leadership. Welcome, Joanne.
Well, thank you so much, Banya. I am so pleased. We've known each other a little while now, a few years now, and I'm just so delighted that you've got this amazing platform that you've created and you get to speak to all sorts of amazing people. So I feel very blessed and honored that I was given this opportunity. Thank you.
Oh, I totally reciprocate that. I'm blessed to have this opportunity to meet such wonderful women, though I'm also meeting a few men. But the women is something that is closer to my heart, of course, for all
Amazing.
reasons that we women know. All right.
Yes.
So let's start with asking you about what is it that made you who you are today?
Gosh, I could talk about that for just a little while, but I'm
Go
mindful of
on.
time. So I'll do it as succinctly as I possibly can. And it goes way back to when I was a young girl and as an 18-year-old. Um, Left high school, only wanted to go to university. But my dad was a bit of an old school fellow, this is a very interesting thing because he was a university graduate. But he said, no, you're not going to university. Even though my brother had been, my other brother was doing other things. He said, no, you'll go get a job. So it's very old school, my dad. So somewhat heartbroken and a very incredibly shy person. I I went and sat the bank exams as you did in 1980. That's how you got into banking. You had to sit an exam on a Saturday morning. And I thought, job done. Great. That's all I have to do. And he said, no, now you'll ring every branch manager until you get a job. And I went, crikey, how am I going to do that? What am I selling, right? I'm incredibly shy 18-year-old, couldn't say boo to a goose. But I did do it and I got a job in 2 weeks. And the bank manager said to me, you didn't get the best exam results, but you're the only one who rang me every day. So I felt I needed to give you a go. And that lesson, it wasn't consciously learnt because it was only in the last 5 or so years that I went, wow, what a great lesson that was. Because what I learnt from that was if I wanted something, it was up to me. And so I stayed in banking for 17 years and I ended up in an area of banking that was pretty unusual for a woman. I learned how to write commercial finance and asset finance. By that, I mean equipment and paint on the walls and all that sort of stuff. And I ended up teaching all the home loan writers, who predominantly were men, and taught them how to do this other type of lending. I can't tell you how many times I got asked, what do you know, girly? Very old school, but that was okay. I had a swathe of documents to explain, well, you either know how to do it and you can leave, or you might want to listen to what I can share with you. And that took me into the journey of education. So over the years, I guess I stayed in banking for about 25 years in one way, shape or form, and started my own business in the early 2000s. And just prior to that, I'd lost my first husband through suicide. And that was something that really was a game changer for me. It had me understanding that I'd married a man who was very similar to my dad and very controlling. He had then left, he exited this world. And somebody had said to me, you really look relieved, Joanne. I went, gosh, I am. I very much am. We had got a beautiful daughter between us, but it wasn't a happy marriage. But it was at that point, at the age of 38, that I decided that I would need to do something different. So again, this lesson kept popping in, and I started my entrepreneurial journey, and I ended up in education. So where I am today is where I have landed as a result of all those lessons. So I was the person who wanted a pay rise. I put a business case to the boss. If I wanted to do something different, I'd do the homework, I'd research it, and I would do it. And you mentioned that $30 million business, and that was built with 30 years of experience. But I ended up knocking on the doors of my largest competitors and said, I want to do business with you. What do you reckon? And, I got a whole bunch of no's, but I got 5 yeses. And it helped me to build a $30 million business in 24 months. It was insane. And that is where it's landed me today, is the person I am today, is all those micro moments that have big impact on me.
Okay, so I find it very, very fascinating that, and being a founder myself, I would like to know more about the insane bits of that experience.
Yeah. So I often speak about it today. Like, if you think about building a business, which literally was from scratch to $30 million in 24 months, and all the layers that came in with that, from a few staff to 110 staff, from one office to 4 offices down the eastern seaboard, from a few customers to thousands. And so the elements in there that took my attention, good or bad, was it needed lots of systems. So I was the first organisation in the education sector to be paperless and to be fully automated, because I knew the only way that I could grow and scale, and I had no vision of growing to 30 million in 24 months. It just happened because we had all these elements in place. So what I know is systems, processes, a lot of people think is a bit boring. Systems, processes, policies, automation, platforms that just hummed amongst themselves. And I do remember, Banya, towards the end of that journey of that business, thinking, it doesn't feel right in here. It was too fast, and I remember waking up many times in the middle of the night going, I don't think I can stop this thing, but I'd love to get off it, get off that rabbit wheel that was going so fast. But because the pace was so insane, I didn't feel that I could step off it. But a whole bunch of perfect storm of micro moments caused me to liquidate that business. So again, that was so much of a relief. And it took 7 years to wind that business down. And people will ask me, well, what was the thing that was the biggest lessons? Pace at 30 million in 24 months was the hardest, much harder than wiping me clean financially over 7 years of closing a business. Emotionally, that was a very hard journey because it did wipe me clean. But the growth and what was required for all the layers of systems, processes, communication, meetings after meetings, and traveling everywhere, that was an enormous amount of lessons and insights. I often speak about, yes, do build a business to the size that you aspire, whatever number that is. It doesn't really matter whether it's 1 million or 10 customers or 1,000 customers. But do regulate the pace, because the pace will take your attention from what's important. And that's a massive lesson that I learned, a massive lesson.
So looking back, if you were to scale it, say not in 24 months, but over a period of, say, 3 years, or maybe say even 4 years, what would have been the elements that you would have changed?
I definitely would have slowed the pace. We went out and got a lot of sales teams, and I had a very aggressive salesperson working for me, and I would have said, slow it down. I would have said, slow it down. Let's check that everything that we're doing, because of the sheer volume of emails and communications and paperwork and reporting, like no normal person can keep an eye on the ball. As the CEO, we have to accept, as business owners, it's our responsibility. Doesn't matter that I had all these layers of management, right? It's still up to me to make sure that all those things are working and singing perfectly, or not, don't want to use the word perfectly, but well. And I'm the sort of boss that goes, well, if I don't know how to do that job, let me go and sit on it. I had no capacity to do that. All I was doing was meetings, meeting people, getting new salespeople in, and making sure at the best as I thought at the time that everything was humming. And on the surface it was, but I had no time to look deeper in the layers to go, actually, that's not what I had envisioned that to be, how you're doing it or how it's working. Let's fix that. I had no capacity for that. And so for me, it would have been, yeah, let's do this growth, but let's stretch it out and let's slow it down. And not to a snail's pace, but at a pace that's manageable for everybody. Right, so we could all keep our eye on the ball, and it wasn't, I delegated to all the layers, but even they didn't have capacity because it was at a rocket ship pace. So I just would have stretched it to give me more time to get into the micro moments of the business.
Uh-huh. Okay. So see what we are learning here from you today. So what would be your guiding principles as a businesswoman?
My guiding principles is, and I often ask this of my clients, is be deeply connected to why you're doing what you're doing. And it doesn't matter whether you're selling a pen or doing what you're doing or a service. So it doesn't matter whether it's a physical product or a widget or whatever it is. Be deeply connected to the why, which is then intrinsically moves to the purpose of your business. Because I know in that $30 million business, I lost sight of my purpose and I was physically ill. It affected me physically, like I could feel all the things going on in my body. I didn't want to turn up. I'd lost my mojo, if you will. And so guiding principles, and I share my principles on my website. I'm very proud of them, that there's no BS for me. You need to have fun. You need to have systems, all these elements of business. And so define why you are doing it and the purpose of your business, and then absolutely define your values or principles. Actually take the time to do that. And the reason a lot of people go, yeah, but they're just lovely words up on a wall. And you go into large corporates and you'll ask a staff member, well, what does that mean? They go, well, I don't know. I just know it's some nice words on the wall. But as business owners, as you and I, we are not large businesses, but we are deeply passionate about what we do, right? And I'm sure you've got yours defined and share them as well. But what I know is if we're going to grow and scale our businesses, and we will then have team members, when we have our guiding principles defined, we can use it as a recruitment tool. We can use it as a performance management tool. We can use it as a tool to bring in suppliers and customers so that everybody in your organization, whether external looking in or internal looking out, they get the values and the principles. And if I could take it the next level, I would say get the team involved in defining them. So they never stay stagnant. Mine have evolved over time. But I've had, over the years, when I've had a team, I will shut the business for a day and say, come on, we're going to go and revisit our guiding principles or values, and let's make sure that we're happy with them. Where do we need to tweak them? Where are we not stepping up? How can we improve? How have we missed one? Is there something we need to add? And so that has your team going with you on that journey of growth and purposely driven business. So for me, guiding principles are a critical foundation in business, but it has to be connected to why. And then my second question is, how are you going to exit? Because a guiding principle in your business is there is no point building a business without the end in sight. It's like having a business plan in your head and not writing it down, right? If you don't know where you're going to exit that business, and that could be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it does not matter. And that can change, right? Some people might go, oh, well, I'm just going to sell it over a period of time. They might go, actually, I'm going to license it. I'm going to franchise. I'm going to go big and list it on the stock exchange, or I'm just going to walk away. All valid. And there are so many ways you can exit a business, and that's just a few of them. There's at least a dozen. But unless you have a sense of where you're aiming for, you're just scattergunning, and you're not connecting what you do every day to what that exit looks like, because you'll run your business differently if you're just going to walk away or if you're going to sell it. You'll run it completely differently.
Perfect. All right. Totally agree with you that the
Thank
principles
you.
matter, and how you look at it really, really shapes up the entire organization and the business that you're doing. Let's talk about your 17 other entrepreneurial ventures that you have been
Yeah,
into.
yeah.
What
Well,
happened to them? How did they grow? What did you
sure.
do with them?
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't have them all at once, and it wasn't one after the other. So those 17 have been either I launched, I purchased, I merged or acquired businesses. So where the biggest number of businesses were in place was that $30 million business. And so what I realized, what I had a vision for was I was a registered training organization, we're delivering education. But I realized that I was competing with a lot of big players in the market. Everybody thinks every RTO is TAFE, and there's actually nearly 4,000 private RTOs in this country, whereas the general public think everybody's TAFE. So I wanted to see, well, how can I be different, right? So I decided that because we were only delivering the diploma of business, my target audience were business owners. So they had needs of all sorts of other professional services. They need accountants, lawyers, IT, marketing, etc. So I thought, all right, why don't I just go buy all of them? Or why don't I merge them into my company? So at that given time, I had 12 companies. I had my registered training organization, accounting firm, law firm, HR company, real estate, finance broking, finance management, IT, marketing, etc. All the layers of professional services that a business owner might want. So we called ourselves a professional services department store, if you will. So whatever level you came into, you got exposed. But what it enabled me to do, which was very different in the education space, when I knocked on the doors of my competitors, as I said, I was just delivering the diploma of business, and that would on average be worth $5,000. I was charging $35,000 for mine because as soon as they enrolled, I'd say to them, great, now for the money that you've paid, you're going to get a business plan, a marketing plan, an accounting advice. You're going to get your website done, your marketing looked after. All the services came into play for that business owner. So whilst I say, and legitimately, I owned them all, 17 companies. I had managers over all of them. But over time around other ones, I've been a mortgage broker, finance broker, all different businesses that I've owned, but all have been, I feel, as an education as a foundation. So that is how that happened.
Uh-huh. That is a very, very different way of looking at how you want to service business owners, or
Yes,
how you want to deliver to business owners, because you have
correct.
got their pain, you have got their, you have understood how to, you know, elevate them from their pain, and you have
Yes,
also created the pathway to it. That
yeah,
is amazing. That is something that, it just got me thinking about, how there's different ways of approaching it now, maybe through cloud, and something else could
correct.
happen there.
Yes,
And
exactly.
yes. So, okay. So now asking about yourself as a leader.
Hmm.
What do you how do you envisage yourself as a leader?
I guess for me as a leader, I've done many presentations on this topic of being a leader and as an entrepreneur, and I not long did one through a networking group, and I was talking about leadership, and one of the questions was, well, I don't have any staff, so I'm not a leader. And I went, actually, you're wrong. Even as a solopreneur, you have to lead yourself, right? So if you can't lead yourself, how are you, when your business grows, going to lead your team? So for me as a leader, and it's just me and my business today, I don't have the 100 staff that I had before. I see myself as the person, like I talk about the phrase of turning up as a leader. And turning up for me means many things. It's being present, it's being humble, it's being honest, it's being vulnerable, it's being able to make mistakes and own them. Like, by golly, I have made a massive amount of business mistakes, and we hear it from a lot of global leaders. They've made more mistakes than they've had successes, and yeah, I think I'm totting those up as well. Great lessons. And I think as a leader for me is accepting where I've stuffed up and go, okay, I could have done better here. So what should I have done, and how am I going to do it better next time? But even today, like if I belong to various networks, as you know, I put my hand up to do various things. So when other organizations have come to me, networking groups, and say, oh, you should join. And I go, well, yeah, I would love to. You sound like you're an amazing network, but I'm going to say no. So as a leader, you need to be prepared to say no. And the reason being is that I know that I won't be able to turn up as I would expect myself to be to give my full value to that network. Because one of the interesting things, Banya, as you said, I recently achieved my MBA, and one of the research project at the end was about my business. That was my opportunity. So part of the MBA was to understand, why do female leaders join networking groups and sit back quietly? Because that is not me. I will not do that if I'm going to join a networking group, because I'm going to join a networking group that has my target audience in it. Because having one-on-one conversations are amazing and wonderful and beautiful, but it's not going to help me grow and scale at scale, right? So I need to go find places or organizations that has my target audience in volume and has the trust of the owner of that business. Accounting firms, my accountant, he and I do a bunch of stuff together, networking groups, etc. And so it was super important for me. I wanted to know, why do women join networking groups and sit back quietly? Because you and I belong to a networking group in the US. We both got interviewed by that leader to be accepted in there, right? It wasn't a foregone conclusion. And I was interviewing one of the members from there, and she said, well, I sit back quietly because I want to grow up to be like all the amazing women in there. And I went, well, I'm really intrigued by that, because you got interviewed by the leader to be invited in. So did you not realize that that was the process? No. So I said, so therefore you have permission to step up, because I don't know everything. I know a bunch of stuff. You know a bunch of stuff, but I'm not the expert of everything in business. And this lady I was talking to was marketing. I think she was in marketing. I said, I have no clue how to do a Facebook advert. No clue. And please don't make me hurt my brain to try and work it out. I'm going to go and find somebody who does. And so I found it incredibly intriguing and interesting that women, as leaders of their own business, sometimes sit back quietly. And that's not the leader that I want them to be. If they've taken the bold step of stepping into entrepreneurship, they should therefore have the boldness to step into their leadership of self first, and then they can do that for their team. But I also understand imposter syndrome is a heck of a thing that we have to deal with.
So much agree. Yeah, imposter syndrome does make a lot of difference, especially I don't think it's only women who face it. I think even men do.
Yeah,
but we are actually more open to accepting that, we are feeling the imposter syndrome in us.
Yes,
And yep.
We'll say it out loud that that's what we suffer from. I do feel sorry for our male counterparts in entrepreneurship, because I feel we don't make it easy for them. We want this level of support and guidance, but another don't hold the door open for us type thing. I feel that they're often tiptoeing around going, oh gosh, I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't.
Exactly.
We make it very hard for them. I'm the first to admit it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree, because I have a feeling that men, especially today's generation and the generations who are going to work now, are the generations who are tiptoeing around women, and they're not always very sure if they're doing what the right thing is, or if that is acceptable for them to do. And they're yet not very confident that, if they don't do something, will that be unacceptable? So there's a kind of a hazy line there for them, what is expected to be done and what's not, and the other way around.
I agree. It's hard.
Right. Okay. So now let's come to your coaching journey. So what were the first struggles you faced when you became a coach? First of all, when did you become a coach? And
I would say to you, when Navigate Biz first launched in 2017. So it was owned by myself and a very good friend of mine, a man, Nick Barnstall, an incredible entrepreneur. And that was after the liquidation of my business. And he said to me, I want to go into business with you, Joanne. I want it to be an education company. And I went, oh my gosh, please don't let it be an RTO. I don't want to go down that path again. And he said, no, I want to support business owners of how to avoid becoming one of the failure rates, the statistics in failure of small business. And who cares what percentage it is, it's just way too low. So he and I knew that we had an enormous amount of value to bring, and I think most coaches do. So we probably spent for the first couple of years meeting on the Gold Coast here very early in the morning, and I'll record the conversations and we would turn them to online programs. So comes along COVID, this wonderful thing called COVID, right? And we spotted a government opportunity, government grant opportunity, and this is where we really stepped into our coaching and mentoring of small business. So we were very fortunate to secure funding through the Queensland government, which fully funded all of our online programs for small business owners. And we ended up supporting about 10,000 business owners in Queensland alone, because it's a Queensland piece, to survive COVID and what they needed to do and how they could do it. And then, not the invention, but the arrival of Zoom in a big way. So we did all those sort of things. And we saw a lot of hard stuff going on in business. We saw it, like everybody saw it. Businesses closed, and how were they going to survive? And I always remember a cafe in Brisbane that was on our books and going through a program, and he shared and we had suggested to him, one of the things he could do, takeaways, of course, they're all doing that. And we said, why don't you share, your brownies recipe is delighted by all the people who come to your cafe. Now they can only get it takeaway. Why don't you share the recipe and see where it goes? And he contacted us not long after, and he said, you won't believe what's happened. He said, that recipe was seen by Ashton Kutcher from Hollywood, and he's ordered my brownies from my cafe in Brisbane in the middle of COVID. And he went viral, absolutely viral. So that was a pretty extraordinary experience through COVID, though, those 18 months or so that we battled through it, to really step into our coaching and supporting small business. And that really kicked us off into a really nice way. And, both Nick and I were a bit of a no BS approach to business. We're happy to give people the hard truths in a kind way. But we're not a fluffy sort of approach. We're not going to say, new shiny toy, this is, it's okay, cuddle, we'll look after you. It is actually, business is hard and you have to get on with it. And yep, you can sink on the floor in a fetal position. I've done that myself personally, but I do realize I can't get much lower. So the only way out of it is up. And so, we supported a lot of business owners through that period, and we were very blessed and privileged to be given that opportunity. And so that was the kickoff and big launch of us mentoring and coaching small business owners.
Oh, I totally agree with you that, like for my clients, for the business clients that I have, for business coaching,
Yeah.
some of the clients sometimes say, I'm doing it all alone. And I say, my heart is with you, but that is it. I understand
Correct.
there's no cuddle, that word
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really, rung into me, because cuddle, you can't just not do that.
No.
You are a business person, you have chosen to be a business person, you shape yourself up, take your time, but do it.
Yeah. And as you know, I'm called a circle builder. And so my next comment to that is, but do surround yourself with the right
Yeah.
people. Right?
Yeah.
Surround yourself with the right circle of people, like you and I in the same network. We've met many times. It's wonderful that we've got this connection. And so that's, you might be in business on your own, but don't do it alone. Surround yourself with the right people who you can bounce ideas, and they can check you, and they can hold you accountable, and laugh and cry and drink a glass of wine with, or have a cup of coffee. You need that. You do need that.
Yeah, but at the same time, I find that this circle, sometimes what we do is, as business owners, we tend to think that our family could be that
Oh,
circle,
gosh.
but that doesn't really work. I totally agree with you. Oh,
No.
gosh, is the exact
Oh,
feeling.
gosh.
That doesn't
Yes.
work.
No. And I think we're all surrounded by loving people in our lives, family and friends. Like, I've got a circle of girlfriends who have never owned a business in their life. And so I know they might, one of my girlfriends said to me not long ago, when are you going to retire, Joanne? Well, what's that? Why would I want to do that? Because she's stuck in a corporate job she hates. So that's all she wants to do, right? And I know my mum says, as I shared with you, I now look and care for my mum. She's 95. And she'll often say to me, "You're still working, Joanne. Aren't you tired?" No, I actually love what I do, Mum. I absolutely love it. But what I've learned over the years, and I share with other women in business, is you need to create that ability to go, I understand your feedback that you're giving me, but I give it back to you with love. I don't need to accept it. And that was part of my research in my MBA from the coaching perspective. Why do women in entrepreneurs put so much credibility on the people who are in their life, family, friends, etc., who give them this advice who've never been in business in their lives, and yet don't proactively go and find a coach like you or I, or find a circle of people to support you with? Why do they give so much credibility to these family and friends who love you dearly and are saying it from the best intentions, but haven't got a clue what they're talking about?
Exactly. That's where I was about to say that they haven't got a clue what we are talking
I
about,
have no
what the
idea.
business is about. They love you. Yes, there are feelings in the right
Absolutely.
place, but that's it. That's it.
That's it.
When it comes to business, you need to have a
The
same
right
circle of
circle.
people who are there for you. They don't
Correct.
have to be your mentor, they don't have to be anything, but surround yourself with
Exactly.
that circle of friends, who can, be
Yeah.
with you and understand what you're going through. You understand your pain. That's
Exactly.
important.
And
That's
I would
very
say to you,
important.
Banya, that even between you and I, we have met many times on a networking group, but I reckon you would know if you needed to call me and run something past me, you could. And I could do the same with you, because that's the circle we run in, right? Like there's
Yep,
no expectation, oh, well, I'm going to charge Banya a whole bunch of money for that conversation. No, we are
exactly.
in that circle that, unless we decide to go into some sort of formal arrangement, but that's a beautiful thing about circles. You can come in and out of them, and they'll be shrink and they'll go large, but people can jump into your circle in and out as you need. And that's the beautiful thing about it. So just being aware and present enough to know, oh, mum, sister, brother, friends, they love me, but I don't need to take on board their advice. I give it
Yep.
back to you with love.
Exactly, exactly. I totally agree with you. And I think that's the very reason why I wanted this, wanted you to be a part of this, so
Yeah,
that I asked you this because that would be a good one to share with
thank you.
our listeners and, our viewers here. Last question that I would like to
Yeah.
ask you is, what would be your legacy that you would like to leave behind?
Mm-mm. Well, I'm going to tap into what I have defined as success for me, because it's the impact I'm going to make. I don't know when this will happen. And every time I speak about it, and I think I mentioned before, when we're talking about success, we need to hear it, feel it, see it, taste it. You might have heard me speak about that before when I talk about success. And so I get all these goosebumps and stuff. So for me, I know I've succeeded, and the legacy that I've left is that I've been able to scholarship 1,000 women into my entire programs, worth about $40,000 each, to 1,000 women a year. When I get to that point, I know I've left the legacy of business growth, that I've helped these women to not be a failure rate on those horrible statistics that we see. As I said, I don't know when and how that will happen. I've got the programs in place: membership, her transformation, consulting, and MBAs. That's my programs. But my goal is to scholarship 1,000 deserving business women into those programs to make sure that they do have the business of their dreams. So the legacy I want to leave is to really put a kick in that failure rate statistics. That's what I'm chasing.
Uh-huh. That's a very, very ambitious chase that you
It
have
is.
there. And I wish you best of luck. But
Thank
would
you.
you like to share something about what you're doing what you're doing and where you would like women to join you today, or
Sure,
if
sure.
they want to look for something that they can connect
Yeah,
you with?
no trouble. So I'm one of the few people on my website under navigatebiz.com is my phone number. If you click on it, it'll ring me. So I want people to call me. But if I can take a few moments to speak about my pet program, which is the Her Transformation Program, and I talk about the fact that took me 30 years to pull together. I've also shared with you that collaboration has been one of my biggest success metrics. And so Her Transformation is a collaboration program as well. It's got 6 mentors in it, not just me. So you don't just get me for 6 months, because what I know is I don't know it all. I also know from the lessons I've learnt over the years that I've invited specific mentors into this program. So at 6 months, you get me online. There's a whole bunch of group mentoring and so on. But I also understand the importance of managing your energy. So I've got a sound energy healer in there to remove these limiting beliefs, this imposter syndrome that's going, to remove the fear. I've got a fashion stylist who's based in Melbourne, and you know this wonderful lady called Jane Vandermeer. So she does a styling session with all the ladies to understand colour, shape, know what you're wearing suits your body, and to give you the confidence to stand in front of the stage, which is this jolly screen we do every day, right? So the next one is then a professional speaker, because that's what we're doing every day. We need to learn the craft of professional speaking. We also need to understand the unconscious bias we expose ourselves to and that we impose on others. We also need to understand where are we in flow. Where are we in flow in our business and where are we not? So with me, there's 6 coaches in there. And I deliberately pushed it out to 6 months to give the ladies space. So the ladies that I would love to speak to are the ladies who've hit a ceiling in their business. They've been going a little while, could be a few years, but maybe they've hit a ceiling in turnover, mindset, systems, haven't quite built the team yet. And they're just going, I'm not really sure who can help me. So her transformation is who that's aimed at. And at the end of it, they'll have a beautiful strategic plan of a framework of where they're going to take their business. And we can talk further about how we can help them with that, or they can go ahead and do it themselves. But that program is something that is deeply ingrained in my heart. And it's drawing on all the lessons of everything I've learned in business and bringing it to ladies to transform them and their business.
Lovely. That is a very, very interesting project that you're into. And
Thank
not,
you.
I don't think it's a project. I think this is a lifelong opportunity that you're giving women
Thank
to
you.
get into, which will help them to change their business for the better. And there are so many of us who get stuck at a certain level and then we grow again,
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
need that. And sometimes we're not even aware that we are stuck. Sometimes it takes
Exactly.
us,
Yeah.
that much time to realize that, oh yeah, I am stuck.
Yes.
So that's
How
that's
do I
one of the
find
things.
help? So that's what I'm here to serve. Yeah.
Lovely. I find it amazing, her transformation. I wish it all the best.
Thank
And
you.
thank you, Joanne, for being with me here today and loving you all the time and
Thank you,
hugs all
Banya.
the way. Thank you
All
so
of the
much.
same to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.